Fuck off, will you? Fresh, yeah?
Shut the fuck up!
Whoa.
That's too close to your mouth, dude.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
I can see that getting used as a blooper. That's too close to your mouth, Dino.
That's too close. Where'd you get that accent from?
That accent is a fella from Donemate who is camp but not gay. Bit like yourself, Dan.
Yeah, I'm very effeminate, but not gay whatsoever.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I've tried the gayness. Doesn't suit me.
Bit of willy tipping.
No, you wouldn't tip the willies. They'd be like the back door and the front door. Do you know what I mean? Doing a jump over in Bleeding Tesco's.
Scissor Brothers.
I thought you said Christian Brothers there. Microphone check. Microphone check. Check 2 check.
Check.
That
was brutal. That was. No, but boy, it was sounding like a kid trapped down a well or something. Check. I'm down the well. I'm
down the fucking well. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, there was an Elwyn outside, right? And I said to her, morning, and she went, all right. It was a real Ballymun Dublin vibe. And I said to her, where are you from? She goes, Sheriff. But she ended up, anyway, she was telling me a story. Her son is up to all kinds. She was talking about him, and I was going, get him to hook up, and we'll do, whatever. She was talking about him like he was a teenager, 40-odd years of age.
No, but what happens to some people is that when they're 13 and they get into substances or whatever it is they get into, they remain at that emotional level.
Child brain.
You call it child brain.
No, you called me child brain.
I did earlier. I'm sorry, Dan. But what I'm saying is that they will stay at that emotional level. And then when they come into, when they start, like some people say that people cop on when they're 38. That's the time when they go, here, I've had enough of this jail and, running around like a lunatic and drinking cans and fields and stuff like that. At 38, they go, here, I've had enough. But that they have to restart at that 13 point, So great response again this week to the podcast. Lots of positive messages of support and people just really, really taken by it. And I think it's mad because it's just me and you sitting in a room talking,
Well, isn't that where all podcasts are?
Yeah, of course it is, yeah.
But why do you think it's mad that? Because it's you. Because
it's me and you. And we've always, we've sat on boats to Inishboffin talking like this. And, so to me, it's just us
We're just being ourselves.
Yeah, we'd be in the car chatting and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And we'd be laughing our heads off. It's that. But even me listening back to it, like somebody said something very profound about something that I said, and I was like, I never said that. So I had to listen back to it. And even listening back to it, I was very proud of it,
Yeah, as a podcast.
Yeah.
Because there was bits in it that you said to me that you didn't realise that you said.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
My honest opinion is that I didn't catch you on the back foot, but I caught you in a place where you were relaxed and open and you just let it out without editing it in your fucking head.
One bit of feedback was that one person said, you have inspired him to make his own podcast,
Going along that theme or that thread, create or die, the tendency is to be cynical and not do it and be fearful and edit it even before you do it, critique it to the point where you get stagnant.
Sure, Dean, how many people have we invited to here and they don't show? Or
People don't show for loads of different reasons because of where they're at in their own lives. They might say yes, being nice, and they mightn't have the confidence just to go, I'm just not into that. Because we're very persuasive.
People have said to me, not into it. I think podcasts are like, how about earwigging the people on the bus?
Say that again?
My mate said to me, I never get into podcasts. And I said, why? He said, it's like earwigging to somebody's conversation on the bus.
I like earwigging people's conversations.
He doesn't.
Ah, yeah. I like staring at people. Like, it looks like I'm staring at people, but I like looking at people. You know that, like...
People watching.
Without it being like sexual voyeurism or something like that. It's just looking at people.
Why did you go there?
Because that is a thing. That's the next bleeding level of it. That's where it goes.
Big flasher's coat or something like that.
Just looking at people, imagining them in bleeding sexually, like...
Oh, okay. Oh, so you're just talking about just watching them going about
just
their daily
watching
business.
people walking past, and I'd be wondering... I look at a crow and think, what the fuck is going on in that crow's head?
I'd be like that as well. There's two magpies come into my garden and I'd be thinking, what are they talking about? Like,
what's going on in the head? Or if I'm out swimming, I'm at the High Rock or something, and I see a bird flying across the water, I just think, where's he going? Where did he come from? What was the story? Did he leave his jacket in Malahide or something like that?
So what I think is, that's what happens to us, is we go into this human thing, that they're the same. Because I have 3 dogs in the gaff, like, you know, and they're very repetitious, like, you know, so they have their routines, right? So they eat at a certain time, they, you know, poop at a certain time, all that kind of stuff, right? And they have,
off, will you? They shite out the back garden.
Yeah, but they have a certain time that they do.
You call it poop?
Yeah, shite or poop.
Do you say poop?
But the bags that you put her into is called a poop bag. They're not called a shite bag. That is a different thing.
You're a shite bag.
Yeah, exactly, right? So a shite bag is a different...
They should call them shite bags. They
Absolutely,
sell
but
more.
what happens when you go into the centre and you say to a woman, shite bag? Fuck you!
2 shite bags, please. Well, you're one of them, you prick. 2 shite bags walked into the centre. So repetition dogs, shite, go.
So I'd be often thinking, like, I know they don't have the same brain as me. I'm not saying mine is better or theirs is worse or that like that, but they're not processing stuff the same way I am. But I think we do. Like, I have an English bulldog, right? You know those dogs, the Churchill kind of dogs, right? And they have great facial expressions, right? So there's times I'd often think that he has human characteristics, right?
Does he bark like that? Sparky,
I'm English.
you fucking can't.
How come they're called? I was looking at a program the other day, and there was a place called Victoria Falls in the middle of Africa, like, you know?
Yeah, that's called colonization. Welcome to colonization. Today, Botswana.
And like, there was a guy going around Donegal spraying out the English names on the signs, and people were giving out about him, right? Saying, oh, he's confusing the terrorists.
The terrorists?
He's confusing the terrorists because the terrorists don't speak the Gaelic. So he's confusing the tourists. But I actually think the original name for our places, like Ballynamona, you know, that's the original name, like, you know. So somebody came along and went, no, it's not called Ballynamona, it's Ballymon.
He says they're in Ballynamona. Say that again. Ballynamona. No, I don't understand you. Ballymon. Oh, I get it now, yeah. That's like Oscar Traynor Road. What's the Irish for that?
Oscar Honduras.
Out the road. I'm in out the road. Where are you? Cherry Orchard. That's exactly how they done it.
You're right, Cherry Orchard. Where did that come from, Cherry Orchard? I know your man John Creedon has done a great programme about Irish names and stuff like that, you know. Oh,
that's a good segue. Did you see that? That's an RTE thing I done Sunday. Did you get those books I gave you? You did, obviously, because I gave them to you.
Yeah,
my mate Stephen gave me 2 books for you. One is John Creedon's book about Ireland, about folklore and all that type of stuff, and holy wells and all that. And then the other one is about the Liberties.
So I live in Holywell, which is Holywell. So St. Pappen, who lived in this area,
the Liberties,
had a holy tree, Pappin tree.
Hold on, start again, because I drifted off there because I was doing my own the Liberties thing. And my attention span is like, what were you saying?
So I said, you said Holywell. So I live in Holywell, which is, so St. Pappen, who lived in this area way long time ago, before the flats, he had a holy tree, St. Pappin's tree, Poppin tree, and he had a holy well.
And where were they? Were they at where the church is, or do you know where they are?
I think the tree is over where the travellers were, because that was a very holy place for travellers to, like, travellers are travelling to that part of Ballymun for 1,000 years, right? And there was a graveyard. Do you remember where the house was in the 7 Pitches, the big huge house, which they said was the architect's house? Well, that originally had been a graveyard, and somebody said it was a children's graveyard, and that's why the travellers travelled to there once a year, thousands of years ago. And that was St. Margaret's Road, and that place became a traditional place for travellers to travel to, and that's how I think the site grew out of that, like, you know. So the Holy Well, I don't know where it is, but I know the one in Donamead is covered over by a big load of concrete.
Perfect.
But there is one still open in Ladies Well in Blanchardstown. So you're driving down the road and you see this thing.
I know that one.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Near the graveyard. On that road where the graveyard
people
is.
People still go and take water from it, and it allegedly has healing properties.
So I'm up in the Cooley Mountains there, and there's fucking loads of wells. And before they
Which is well.
Before they were holy wells, what were they?
They were pagan.
They were just wells. They were like pagan springs, wells where water came out of. They used to say, the pagans used to say, according to Mancon, right, who's the dude who has all the knowledge on this, it was like a doorway to the next dimension, or the other dimension, just like dolmens.
There's one of them in Howth.
There's one of them in Howth, and in Ballymun, all the courts are named after like Dolmen, Nowt, Druid. It's a fucking rich history. Here, that's who we should get on. We should get Mancon on. It sounds like manky, but we should get Mancon on. We should invite Mancon to have a little bit of folkloric, pagan, fucking spiritual mushroom chat.
And then the week after then, get some bloke from Ballyferma on a Fido.
Anton, who plays Hurley and speaks Oshgalgic.
Or is a Majoke on a Fido that does wheelies and wears Canada Goose jacket in the summertime.
Does a one-handed wheelie on a Fido.
Going back to the books, the Liberties. So when I was flicking through the book, I seen the song Wheel of Walya. It's a real old Dublin song and it goes right back. And the River Salya, which I think is a tributary of the Dodder. Somebody was telling me, you can't sing that song anymore because there's a baby stabbed in it or something like that. And
well, that's a perfect opportunity to...
Oh, there was an old woman and she lived in the woods.
Wheela, Walya.
There was an old woman and she lived in the woods.
Down by the river
Salya. Well, she had a baby 3 months old.
Wheela, Walya.
She had a baby 3 months old.
Down by the river Salya.
Well, she had a penknife long and sharp.
Wheela, Walya.
Had a penknife long and sharp.
Poor child. Down by the river Salya.
Well, she stuck the penknife in the baby's heart.
Ouch.
Wheela, Walya.
Poor child.
Stuck the penknife in the baby's heart.
Poor bastard.
Down by the river Salya. While 3 loud knocks came a knocking on the door.
Get out.
Wheela, Walya. 3 loud knocks came a knocking on the door.
Down by the river
Salya. While the rope was pulled and she was hung.
Ouch.
Wheela,
Walya.
The rope was hung and she was pulled.
She's dead. Down by the river Salya.
Did you see what I done there?
What?
I done a little play on words.
What was it?
You'll hear it in the edit.
Ah, you bastard. My ADHD won't accept that. So that song is dedicated to that person who didn't want us to sing the song. This podcast is sponsored by Go Fuck Yourself.
.com.
That's a real website, I bet you. It's a load of Asian porn or something.
So
the subscriptions are going to go up.
So Wheela Walya, the one thing is that we used to sing that on the bus in the summer project. Do you remember when they put 70 kids in a 50
I love the way you reminisce about shit.
And
remember years ago when we used to put bleeding barbed wire on toast.
So we used to get 70 kids onto a 50-seater double-decker bus and go off places. And they'd sing all these songs like, the wheels on the bus go round and round. That's a bit kiddish. But then there was like Wheela Walya was definitely one. But everybody had little verses that they added to it. Now, I don't know where they came from. There was 3 policemen and a special branch man. I don't know
they
where
stuck
that came
the baby in the penknife's heart. A wheela, while. It's like a little subversion.
They used to turn it around, a subversion.
Because people couldn't handle the fact that the child who didn't really exist, maybe he did. Ooh, let's ask.
It's a murder ballad. There's loads of murder ballads.
Let's ask Anton. There's loads of murder ballads. So give us another example.
The Twang Man is another one,
I'm not familiar with the Twang Man.
Come listen to me story. It's about a fine young man. When the militia was in wanting, he dealt in hawk and twang. So that's another murder ballad.
Fucking amazing. Raymond, just so you know, and I've said this to you loads of times, right? You mightn't realise, and maybe you do know, but you're just a little bit wanky and proud and all that.
No,
you're a fucking amazing singer, right? So I'm going to encourage you to sing as many. If I'd done a podcast with a fella who could sing, I'd be remiss, or I'd be a wanker if I didn't insist that you sang a song or a couple of songs.
I like singing.
Give us the twang, man.
Come listen to me story. It's about a fine young man. When the militia was in wanting, he dealt in hark and twang. And he took a lovely maiden as fair as any image. And she owned the Treacle Depot, one side of the Carlisle Bridge.
The Treacle Depot.
And I don't know all of that song, but it is a great song.
Our mate used to sing them. So there's a ballad album. We have a mate called Daniel MacDonald, Lunatic, and before he passed, he recorded the ballad album, and it's fucking shit hot. And it has in the Mero, the Twang Man.
Yeah, and he had a great ballad, but he was a rapper. He was an amazing rapper. He actually was really a poet, like, you know, and without knocking anybody, I think he was the best Dublin rap poet I've ever heard, right? And I know that other people agree. Now, I do like there are other amazing poets and rap, Dublin rap artists, but I think he was in a whole different league, you know? So he has an album, Lunatic. What is it, do you know?
Lunatic, based on a true story.
Based on a true story.
Then he has a ballad album as well, and
Is that on Spotify?
the ballad album, I
Not
think...
the ballad one,
No, it's not on Spotify. They're on Bandcamp. He was a great believer in giving his music away for free.
Absolutely, he was, yeah.
I was having that conversation with somebody actually the other day, another young rapper from Ballymun, and he's going, I don't want to make money from music. And I said, I don't know where you got that idea, but you need to put bread on the table, so...
Yeah, but music, it doesn't have to be a monetary thing, you know?
No, it doesn't, but this fella didn't have any other monetary income, and he can sing and rap.
Yeah, but the likes of, like, Dominic Bean was a painter. You know, the Beans, they were painters, like, you know. And I don't think the money thing came to Dominic at all, even though he was a great playwright. And
Where did he get his money from then?
He was a painter decorator. And then there was a great band, there was a great family, English singers, and they recorded Bright Phoebus, Water Sons, I think they were, Lou, but they were painter and decorators as well. Like, I mean, they were painters, they were workers, but they also made money from the music, you know. They sang at night time.
Yeah, no. So I'm talking about people like Dan was adamant that he didn't want to make any money. And so was this other young guy. And I know that of a few rappers, we're going to keep it real. We're not going to make any money from it because they kind of see it as selling out. Meanwhile, they're on their arse, like literally they're on bleeding.
So why can't you leave them be? Why can't you let them do that and be their own?
Because they're in poverty and they have a skill. And in this world, you can get paid for your skills.
I know, but the thing is, they have this thing about selling out, and selling out is about doing it for the man. Like, you know what I mean, that you have to abide by the man's rules or whatever it is, right? So they probably don't want to do that. They want to, like, our podcast is not sponsored by anybody. By the way, somebody suggested we should try get this podcast sponsored by Brennan's Bread. I think that's a great idea. So I just want to put this out there, right? If you know somebody who works for Brennan's, Anto who delivers the bread to your
No,
gaff,
if you're the man who runs Brennan's Bread, reach out to us, right?
If you are Mary Malone, the CEO of...
Is that her name?
I just made that up.
All right.
Mary Malone. You said man, and I'm thinking, come on, we have women in CEO positions too. So if you are Mary Malone, if you're Mary Brennan, sorry, Mary Brennan, she has a very... El Mr. Brennan. Remember that ad? El Mrs. Brennan said, "Arr." You know, imagine she had a voice like that.
Could you do the voice? Could you be the new voice of Brennan's Bread?
Like the Bachelor, El Mr. Brennan said.
What was the thing? Brennan's Bread. Today's bread. Today.
Today's bread today. El Mr. Brennan used to say.
So here, before I forget in me head, yeah, St. Pappin's Church in Ballymun.
Yeah.
I was baptised there.
Oh yeah, in the old church, and it's now a nursing home.
So I remember, now when I say this to people, they go, you're a fucking idiot.
I'd say people say that to you a lot, do.
They don't say it necessarily to me, but I've heard it, you know, through the grapevine.
I get it all the time. I get people saying to me, "You're doing a podcast with Dean Scurry," and I'd be
Would
like,
that fucking idiot?
No, well, like as if I had like jumped into bed with the devil or something. Like, you know what I
Who
mean?
said that to you, right?
I'm not saying
Name them
names.
and shame them.
I'm not saying
people I know.
Mary Brennan.
So I remember.
The CEO, but I'm not doing it. If Dean Scurry's involved, I'm not sponsoring it.
I remember, drum roll, me baptism in St. Pappin's Church.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you're an idiot, Dane, for remembering, because I have memories that go right back to, yeah.
Well, like mine, this is like within the first couple of weeks. I was baptised. I was born on the 20th of November, and I was baptised before Christmas.
Okay.
So it's like straight away. That's the way it was done. Get in.
And you have a specific memory.
I have a memory
that's
of
that
being
old,
carried in through the doors, through the arch of St. Pappin's in a Moses basket by me mother, I would imagine.
It's possible. It's possible, yeah.
Now, how do I know it's possible? Because none of the other children after me were baptised in there.
Yeah. So it wasn't, you weren't going to your sister's
wasn't
baptism.
going to my sister's one. And if I was, I probably wouldn't have been carried in the Moses basket, because my sister is a couple of years...
She was born
younger
when you were 17.
Yeah. I had a moustache down my trousers by that time. I love that phrase.
So come here.
I had a moustache down my trousers.
I have a memory of me in the gaff not being allowed out. And I was wearing a pair of dungarees or dungareens, whatever you want to call them. Because I was unwell, I wasn't allowed out, right? And around that time of whatever age I was then, I got split open by a neighbour. We were throwing stones at the neighbours, over the back.
There's
door.
a bleeding throwback phrase.
Split open.
Hey, did you hear about Anto? Well, he got split open.
Got split open. Where? In the head.
In Coolock.
It's like a troker box.
He has a head like a troker box. I can imagine someone going, you can't say that. You can't say what? Troker box or head or split open? Which one?
You're at the getting cancelled for saying troker box, Dave.
Sorry.
So what happened was...
hold on, this fella who got split open, go on.
So I got split open. I definitely got stitches in my leg. I remember that. I don't think I got stitches in my head. I think that was when my man and dad were going, you know that one where they stood you back up and he said, go on.
He's all right, look at him, he can stand.
You're either getting a smack of a car or something. You're either getting a boot off a horse into the teeth, and he just stands you back up and dust you down. Go on with it. Just keep running there.
I remember we were playing Thrown Stones, right? That was a game. Thrown Stones. And I threw a stone, but I didn't see where it went. And I turned around and my brother was on the deck.
You hear him?
I sculled the stone like that, but I hit him behind me.
So I remember myself and my mate Jeff were out the back garden of his gaff, and we were hitting golf balls. We were just not with a putter, with a chipper, like we were chipping golf balls, and Jeff chipped one and it smashed the man behind him, smashed his greenhouse, right? And all you heard is, for fuck's sake. You hear the smash of the glass, and then, for fuck's sake. And we just ran. That was your go-to
I
place.
love the moment just before you run.
Yeah. Where you look at Jeff, he's looking at you.
Yeah, that moment where the blood drains out you and you go white. Basically, the blood drains out you go white, and then you go, right, what do we do here now? Do you walk forward towards the outlet?
Well, that would be the adult thing to do.
Or do you fucking leg it?
So the adult thing to do would walk towards the outlet and say, look, I'm making a mistake there.
I reckon I'd done the runaway thing until I was about 30.
Yeah.
Just fuck.
But you don't think it's an Irish
crashing
thing?
into that Elvin's car.
You reverse into a car in a car park. I've never done this, by the way. You reverse into a car in a car park, and then you just look around to see if anybody's seeing you. Right? And then, I've never done that myself, but I have. So I have this thing about clamps, right? So I have a small angle grinder, an Aldi angle grinder in the boot of the car, right? And I was with my brother, we were up in Beaumont the other night, and he goes, you're not worried you get clamped? I said, it's all right, I have an angle grinder in the boot of the car, right? And he's like, you're gonna angle grind after. I says, yeah, that's what I would do,
Would you?
I would, yeah.
A little battery power job?
A little battery power job.
That's a plug-in, you knock into the Elvin down the road. Have you got an extension lead there?
Yeah, you plug it into the hospital, into the A&E. Just cut this.
Parked up in the Yamini.
Yeah. So I just have this thing about, that is the man for me. Like, I love a bit of free parking. Like, even coming over here today, right, I wouldn't park in the car park and pay €2 or €4. I have this thing about, I love a bit of free parking. And I actually, now just let me go with this, right?
Because I was going to go jump in
there. I have
there.
about 4 parking spaces in town, and I don't tell anybody about them. Because I used to tell people about free parking spaces in town, and then they start using them, right? I have about 4, of 2 on the south side, 2 on the north side, right, that I use regularly, right?
The one I have is at my brother's gaff.
That's grand, and the one I use is at the back of that, right? But the south side one is a deadly one. Now, that's an after 7 job, you know what I mean? That's like at that time between 7 and 7:30, you get about 4 or 5 spaces there. It never let me down. The best thing to do is, and I'm doing this lately, and this shows me age, right? Getting on the bus and going into town, doing their thing, and getting back on the bus, and you don't have to worry about parking. Like I was going to cinema there with a couple of mates there over the last couple of weeks, and we were parking in Fleet Street Car Park. It should be called Fleece Street Car Park, right? Because
I have a little cheat. Do you want to hear it? If you give blood in the blood bank, you get 2 hours free parking in Fleet Street Car Park.
you were joking me.
No, I'm not joking you.
So you'd go and give blood to save the €6.
€6.
You would give points to your blood.
Concrete pockets. There's loads of elves. There's loads of elves up
Come here.
there with bags of
What
shopping.
What do you get if you give the money on kidneys?
You can park your caravan in there. Martin Stokes is up there. All the Mohans are up there, giving livers and hearts and all.
Arms and everything.
I'll give him me heart, teeny boy.
I love a free bit of parking. I hate getting clamped. I swear to God, I absolutely
So I have a little clamp story. A fella from Ballymoan, I was chatting to him. So you know the way you talk to somebody, and I'm always trying to find out what do they do, and is there any way we can, collaborate, wangle a little bit of bleeding free stuff out of them. So I found out anyway that he used to work with the clampers, but he had keys. He was selling keys. Not keys of coke, keys of clamps. So I went, get us a key. He comes back a week later, key, and I hand him the 50 quid, right? So I'm over the south side. Now he said the key is for Dublin City Council.
This is totally illegal and you're talking about it on a podcast, but let's go for it.
Yeah, angle grind fucking boy over there. Stick it to the man.
That's called, what's that called? Cognitive dissonance, isn't it? Where, like, my angle grinding it off is perfectly normal, but you buying a key, yeah, that's disgraceful, Dean, buying keys of clamps.
Dirty bastard.
Cognitive dissonance.
I'm parked outside a place in Rathmines. I'm doing a gig, probably with one of the rappers or with Maverick or something like that. Come outside, it's clamped, and everyone's like panicking, going, "Oh, he's at that being clamped." And I'm like, "It's grand. I have a key." Takes the key out. Not a hope.
You were just ripped off.
I just ripped off, and I'm ringing my brother, and he's falling around. "Oh, there you are now. I have the key of the city." He's slagging the bollocks out of me. Like,
so some fella, right, said, this is the best scam I've ever heard in my whole life. This fella found a bunch of keys on the ground, and he says to people, "I have keys of clamps there, they're 50 quid each," right? And
is this the same fella?
No, this is what I'm talking about happened to you. This fella found a bunch of keys, and he's just decided.
You're elaborating here, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm fantasizing. So he's selling keys. I'm going to do this, bro. I'm going to say to people, these are keys of clamps, 50 quid for a clamp key. That is amazing that he got you, and it's amazing that he got you, like, because you would be bright enough, like, you'd be streetwise, like,
Yeah, I'll be sharp enough, like, but my concrete pocketness, what's that called? Hungry holeness. My hungry holeness. He smelt it at me. He smelt the hungry holeness at me, and he said, "Sucker." And then I was bragging to my brother and all, and then I ringing up my brother going, "You never guess what?
Oh yeah, my kid."
I was ringing him going, "You don't happen to have an angle grinder in your car? Are you anywhere near Sparky?"
I shouldn't have told anybody that I have that angle grinder, because they're going to start ringing me now at 4 a.m, Sparky.
Yeah. It's not like anybody listens to this podcast, so you're grand.
I won't be getting any messages of support this week. I'll be getting messages of help.
So Raymond, Sparky, well done last week. I just want to say, well done. It was a fucking cracker of a podcast, and I stuck in.
Two of them are crackers.
The edit on the last one was nice, because I stuck in the little bit that I sang for Willie, and I stuck in the song at the end, and I stuck in a little thing that one of the lads sent you right at the end, just going fresh and all that type of stuff, and it adds to the vibe. I'm having fun doing the edit, but also I get the opportunity to listen back to the podcast before anyone else does, and I hear the conversation, and just listening to you being open and honest without it being too heavy or wanky or vulnerable or something like that. It was just fucking nice, man. It was deadly.
Yeah, and it's great to see you where you are, because I think our personalities, we lend ourselves to causes, and we lend ourselves to things like recently we were both kind of caught up in the anti-racist thing, And I think the negativeness, the rebound from that can be quite difficult on our mental health, you know. And I remember, like, you were involved. You were absolutely involved in Home Sweet Home. Like, you were talking to me about you wanted to occupy a building in town, as a couple of you got together. And I think, as I was saying earlier, use what the ingredients. It was like a perfect storm. There was you. There was a couple of other people who were able to bring different. There were different ingredients, but they were able to bring something different to Home Sweet Home. And there was also people who volunteered, who are nameless, like who didn't get their name out there. They weren't part of the court case, or they weren't out on the steps of the court, who were involved in Home Sweet Home. And for anybody who doesn't know what Home Sweet Home was, Dean and a couple of activists occupied a building before Christmas a couple of years ago when a lot of people were dying on the street who were homeless. And that year they housed a number of homeless people safely, and nobody died on the streets that Christmas, right? And what happened was there was a huge media negative backlash towards them. But there was a huge push of positive energy towards them. But then it had to finish. I mean, it wasn't ever going to go on forever. And I'm sure there were people who wanted it to go on forever. There was relationships started in that whole thing. There's people who are married out of it now, like, you know what I mean? And so there was an amazing time for people getting organised and getting active and stuff like that. But there was a thing that happened to three of yous anyhow that I know about, where yous were absolutely lashed over in social media, real negative, real evil, ugly, toxic stuff. And you went to a very dark place.
I don't know if I describe it as dark. Probably would have then. Like, it was a total breakdown. I was like depressed and suicidal.
Yeah.
But from that, ta-da, I am in a fucking amazing place. A really, really amazing place.
Just tell me, so you're saying you're having a full breakdown, right? Because I remember that time, right? And you were, and we were all really concerned for you, like, you know what I mean? So I was linking in with you on a daily basis.
I remember Glenn ringing you going, is this fella out of his head on fucking coke or
that
something?
was in the middle of it. That was it. So you were on the high then.
Yeah.
And so in the middle of it, Glenn rang me and he says, does Dean Scuddy take coke? And I was like, absolutely not. I said, that is the way he is. That is Dean. And I think they christened you ADHD Dean.
I think you christened me ADHD, and you bastard, yeah.
Did I? Okay.
I don't mind, actually, I enjoy it. So just before I have it in my head, somebody said to me the other day, do you remember such and such a person who done such and such a job? I don't want to give them away,
of course, yeah.
But they passed away recently. And it was an interesting moment, because it was like, between the jigs and the reels, there was probably about 3,000 people involved, right? You know, a core 5 or 6.
You're mad with numbers.
No. Literally, we have a spreadsheet, and I still have it, of 2,500 volunteers. So people who signed up to volunteer,
but
over a month,
who gave money and stuff like that, and people.
Well, that's much bigger. But an actual list of people who
wanted to volunteer,
who signed up, everyone from barristers to bleeding bin men.
Yeah.
How do we get involved?
My people question: who turned the electric on and all that kind of stuff, and
we had a sign-up event in a building, and people turned up.
But people turned up with beds and all, didn't they?
People turned up from different countries with money, beds, quilts, chocolates. Kids turned up on Christmas Day with their Christmas money.
So that's the positive stuff, right? And then there was Glenn singing and all that kind of stuff, and that was the real positive part of it, right? And then the negative, then the kind of absolute, complete reverse happened, where people were accusing us of robbing money, and that Glenn was doing it because he had a new album coming out, which was
it's steady. As high as you go, well, then the opposite of that happens
that
as
happened
well.
to me when I was a councillor, right? I remember the day I got elected, I went around Ballymun with flags out the window of cars, and people talk about this, playing music full blast and just being really high. And the next day I was a politician, and I was the scum of the earth.
Yeah, so as high as you go, it's perfectly balanced. It's a very balanced system. And if anything, that's what I've learned from it. And that's how I'm in such a good place now. I've learned to find the balance. And I think you have to go into that. I certainly had to go into that full tilt for me to eventually come out on the other side, thank God, or thank whatever, Allah, Buddha, whatever, to this point here where now I'm finding the balance.
But it happens again. Like, I mean, there is a cycle of it, you know, and I think...
Yeah, and as you mentioned there, like, in the kind of Ballymun for all, Ireland for all stuff,
which was deadly.
It was absolutely amazing, but we stuck our heads above the parapet. We put our hands up. We got off the fence.
And again, lots of people did.
Yeah, and there was inevitable backlash. Like, I remember one of the former Lord Mayors, what's her name? Chew.
Can't think of her first name, but she was of mixed heritage.
Yeah,
and
that's a good way of saying Chinese.
I don't know whether she was from Hong Kong. I don't know whether people from Hong Kong identify as Chinese.
Okay. She stuck her head above the parapet.
The minute she just became the Lord Mayor, there was all this racist backlash.
She fucking lashed over. And I can imagine going into that job going, this is going to be amazing. And then the next day, you're fucking this and you're fucking that and shut your mouth. And you can feed that beast, or you can learn that that's just part of it. That's just part of the fucking the job, part of the background noise. It's a shit part of it, but them's is the breaks.
I love that story where the you know, I just see it on the walls of places that we work in, you know, and it says that the grandfather says to the kid, inside of us, you know, I think it's a Native American thing, there's a black wolf and a white wolf, you know, and the black wolf is the depression and the negative stuff and the toxicity, and the white wolf is the positiveness and the creating and all that kind of stuff. And he said, they're always fighting. There's a fight going on inside of you between the black wolf and the white wolf. And the kid says to the granddad, but which one wins? And he says, the one you feed. And I think, I get that from you. You're a very, very positive person, and you feed the white wolf in the community, in a sense. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen you at, you know, events, at stuff, you know what I mean, and your energy is high. You know, people do brand you a bit of an idiot, like, you know what I mean? And that's grand. And I don't know whether that's a parody thing that you do, whether you play a part, but you do store that positive energy, and people do react to it. Like, I've seen you, we say, you know, there was a Ballymun running thing, and there was a gazebo, and you're underneath it, and there's a DJ, you know, young people DJing, and you were dancing, and people immediately are attracted to you. You know, they come towards you. Like, even when we were upstairs in the cafe earlier, you know, there's kids messing with you and all that kind of stuff. People are attracted to your positive energy, you know. But I'm just conscious of what you're talking about is that nearly yin-yang thing of you get as high as you can go and as low as you can go, right? And I'm just worried about the as low as you can go and how we respond to that, because sometimes the response is medication. A doctor will say, well, there's a few tablets. And I'm not knocking that, because there are people who live much, much more, better lives because they have that kind of medication.
Oh, I done the SSRIs for about 3 months, and it was great.
Tell me what SSRIs are.
Serotonin reuptake inhibitors. They're antidepressants. That's what the doctor would recommend most people who have, like, depression. That's what your doctor would be recommending. Talk therapy and SSRIs. Talk therapy would be something like CBT or, you know, psychotherapist or something like that.
I think the talk therapy for me is really, really important, and I've loosened up a lot of stuff from my past. You know, I'm not saying that I have got rid of it or I have exercised it or any of that kind of stuff, but I've certainly loosened it up and looked at it in a whole different way. And that has helped me. The talk therapy has definitely helped me.
So the SSRIs helped me get to the talking bit.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because between the jigs and the reels, whatever the reason is, there's a chemical imbalance, or there's a thing that's not firing in your head. The serotonin or the dopamine or whatever is not firing across the synapse or whatever. And the SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitor, it inhibits the reuptake of serotonin if you do it backwards. So it just helps get the brain firing. And when on the back of, say, Home Sweet Home and Apollo House, I was having, say, 500 thoughts a day that weren't completing. You'd have a thought and it'd happen like 70% of the thought, and then it'd just stop.
Dissipate.
But then it'd start again. In your head, there was no logical resolution to the thought that you were having. You know the way you have a thought, I'm going to go in and make a cup of tea. So you can imagine only having 70% of that, but then having 500 of them. And what happens is you get confused and tired, and you do that for 6 months, and it becomes a place where you go, oh, I just feel empty and soulless and valueless and purposeless. And that's where, for me, the suicide kind of ideation comes in.
Yeah, and I think the purpose is the thing. You know, for me, having a purpose. You know, I work in the community. We both work in the community. You know, we work in similar places, like, you know. And I think for me, the purpose of doing what we do certainly helps my mental health. Like, you know what I mean? And having a purpose. Now, I love having holidays too, but I do think if I lose that. When that starts, when the purpose becomes dissipated or, you know, or starts to get less than, I kind of drift into that dark spot as well.
What's your purpose? What's the purpose?
So my purpose at the moment is I'm a youth worker. I work in the area. I have a great relationship with young people, and that is a good purpose. That is a good role to have.
That's a role. Well, what's the purpose?
So the role is that I'm a youth worker. The purpose is to create the conditions. Creating the conditions for change. Creating the conditions for young people to feel, to be part of. For creating the conditions for young people to connect or reconnect or get in touch with themselves or those, you know, those kind of things. Like, you know what I mean? So to be an agent of change is the purpose. You know what I mean?
And an agent of connection.
An agent of connection, of change, of engagement, of like just showing people. Here's another thing. Like, you're great at that as well. You're great at saying, "Did you ever see this? This is a mad joke that's happening." I remember, like, I was doing tall bikes with young people. Do you remember that? And it was just like opening people up to different things. Like,
so I call that options and opportunities, and I think that there's a lack of that, or there's not enough of that in places like this, you know, working class communities, because we're kind of on the back foot in survival, hypervigilant mode most of the time. So I have the privilege of not being in that hypervigilant situation, and so I can come in and inject a little bit of energy, positive charisma, compassion, and options and opportunities. And like you
tolerance, you've great tolerance, Dean.
The underlying kind of motivation for it all is love. So I would love myself and I would love everyone else. And that's where the tolerance comes in.
That's deep, Dean.
There's nobody that I don't love. So I kind of have this thing, and I have to mind it in myself. I have unconditional love for everybody. They're only words unless you put it into practice. So I don't have really conditions on my love for myself. And then by extension, I don't really have conditions on my love for anybody else. Now, that doesn't mean I go around bleeding naive and going, everyone's amazing. Because, you know, everyone's not amazing. Because I'm not amazing all the time. Sometimes I'm a fucking idiot. Sometimes, like you said earlier on, I don't know if this is a parody or not. Sometimes I'm playing games with myself. Sometimes I'm acting. Sometimes I have a mask on. We all have different levels of masks and games and acting that we do.
You said last week, right, on the podcast, you said everybody knows what everybody's doing. That was amazing. I was thinking, when you were saying it, I was like, this fella's off his banana, right? But I actually get it now, what you're talking about. Like, I mean, that we kind of know what everybody is kind of...
95% of the shit that's going on in your head and emotionally, you're never going to tell anybody. And everybody's doing that. I know the mad shit that goes on in my head. And I know the mad shit that I think and that I feel. And that I'm ashamed of some parts of it. I'm less ashamed of it now because I've done loads of work on myself, and I've gone and done ayahuasca, and I've gone and being depressed and suicidal. So I've less shame and resentment and all that.
Yeah.
But if that's true for me, if that's happening inside of me, I guarantee you, by extension, by the natural laws of the fucking universe, that's in every single person you see, in the priest, in the guard, in your boss, in your ma. We're all going through all of that shit. I'm just honest about mine, because when I'm not honest about it, I end up in a place maybe that you refer to as dark. I end up in a place where I'm less excited and energized by life when I'm not honest.
You explained that brilliant, and I think I know for me when I kind of got rid of me secrets, like, you know what I mean, when I, you know, somebody said something about you're only as sick as your secrets, like, you know what I mean? So I was, like, so for instance, recently, right, I live in a gaff up in Ballymun, and I've 3 dogs in the gaff, and it's just me, and I wouldn't be a great cleaner, like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be the best cleaner in the world, like, you know what I mean? And what happened to me was I was drifting into that dark place that you were talking about, and the manifestation of that was that the gaff was getting a little bit neglected, like, you know? And So last week I paid 500 quid for the gaff to be deep cleaned, right? I would be a hoarder. I think that part of the thing that I have, it was explained well to me there the other day. I think I hoard for two reasons, right? One, because from living in the past, right? So I was finding things from my past, you know what I mean? We say like, oh, that's something that my Auntie Mary gave me, and all that kind of stuff, and I want to hang on to that, right? And then I was kind of going, but do I really need it? Like, you know what I mean? Do I need it to have, to hold on to that memory or whatever? So there's a bit of that, right? But then there's the other thing, which is, which is totally me, right? Which is I hoard things like bits of something, like a plug, like a plug.
A receipt from a bus journey you had in
No, I don't do that. I have a friend who does that.
I did a little bit of that.
No, I know the Berlin one. Sorry, yes. I used to do that. I don't do that. I don't do that anymore. But no, this is going forward. This is a future thing. So I hold the plug. I'll cut a plug off a fridge if I'm throwing the fridge in a skip, right? You know the plug.
And there's a kind of practical utilitarian bit of that as well going. That'll come in handy in the future.
Right, so that's when you live in the future. So when I live in the future, I become anxious. When I live in the past, I become depressed. And it's only when I'm in this moment, right, that I actually live in this moment. So I'll give you an example right now. So you looking at me now, you can see my hair situation, right? I got up this morning and I was sorting clothes out, right, because the gaff is now top of the pops, like it's in order, like, So I was sorting clothes out, right, and I was
as opposed to chaos.
As opposed to chaos. So the last week or before the
500 deep clean,
before the deep clean, right, the clothes were on a clothes horse in the kitchen, and I was just working off that, right, and I have a walk-in wardrobe, and it was
you couldn't walk into it.
It was a wardrobe.
It was a stay outside wardrobe.
Yeah. So every single thing that was in that wardrobe, because I haven't been in there in a year, right? Every single thing in that wardrobe I threw out, right? Everything, right?
That's a really nice one, because that's just like, if I haven't, it's like when you're having a birthday party or you're getting married. If I haven't spoke to you in the last 2 years, there's no need to invite you to this thing unless you're living in Australia.
So everything was thrown out there. So I was in there, right? So picture the scene. I'm in there. I'm sorting out clothes, socks, jocks, trousers, t-shirt for this, right, and getting ready. And I found a hairdryer, right, in the gaff, right? So I found
Sparky's bald, by the way.
So I'm bald. Yeah, you're looking at me. I have my head is shaved and I'm bald, right? So I said, I've no need for that. I need to throw that out, right? Now, there's a wee dump up the road. I could just go up to it and throw it into it, right? So I brought it downstairs and I left it at a point where they're going to put it. It's in the car now, right? I put it into the car. It's going into the wee dump. But my thought process was, that might come in handy for two things. One is
the dogs.
No, I could be there you go. There's three things, right? I could be heating up something in the shed, for bleeding, plastic covering something or whatever, right? And heat her up with a hairdryer. Is the YouTube video I'm watching, right? That's one thing. Two, there could be a visitor to the gaff, you know what I mean? And they might need a hairdryer, like, you know what I mean? And three, your one, I could dry the dogs. My dogs would bite that anyhow. But so what I'm saying is that, so I had to say to myself was, am I doing that project right now? No. Is there a person staying in the house that needs a hairdryer? No. And the dogs would bite it, so I'm not using it. So I had to live in the now, and I had to make the decision about the hairdryer today. And it's going up to the wee dump up in the Jamestown Road, right? And for anybody who doesn't know what a wee dump is, it's an electrical dump. There's one
where you hold on to your piss in a bag, and then once a month you dump it in the liffey.
I don't know what wee stands for. It must be
that stuff, that balance. And I think that this is what I've learned is I used to run from stuff on one side and then run towards stuff on the other side.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
thing.
I'd be attracted to some stuff and I'd be adverse to, I think that's the word, adverse to other stuff.
Yeah.
And I found you can play that game, and that's the up and the down. That's the high and the low. There's this thing I'm running towards, it's getting high on my head. And then there's this thing I'm running away from, it's getting all depressed. And we like the high and we don't like the low. But I find the balance is just mind the highs that you get, and the lows will take care of themselves.
I met a guy one day, and he said to me, "How are you getting on, Sparky?" I said, "I'm okay." And he goes, "I'll have okay any day." And I like that. you know, and I'm okay with okay.
Yeah,
I'm
my mate
okay
calls
with
it midstream, and you're just in the middle, and you're just vibing off them. You're not running towards the drama, or you're not running away from the drama.
I'm not living in the future, and I'm not living in the past. Somebody else explained this to me then about letting go of the stuff was that it was like a snake shedding its skin, right? And when a snake is shedding its skin, it's uncomfortable, you know, and it's in a bit of pain and, you know, that kind of stuff. But when it gets released from that skin, it feels like a whole new vibe, right? So for me to get rid of all the stuff, and it was just stuff. It wasn't like I had fleeces that were like years old. Like now, I've recycled all them. Like, you know what I mean? I haven't. They didn't go in the skip or anything like that. You know what I mean? But I wasn't looking at myself. I wasn't buying myself new stuff, and I wasn't being good to myself. I was just relying on that stuff. Like, you know, there's a vibrancy. Like, you know the way you put on a new pair of socks and you feel yoo-hoo.
The physical stuff, for me, there's a correlation between that and the emotional stuff. And the way I describe it is we hold on to shit. We hold on to memories and resentments and guilt and
The
shame.
bus ticket from Berlin.
Or that cunt who fucking cut me off in the car park in the Omni. Or that me cousin who fucking said that thing to me about 25 years ago. And the way I describe it is it's like a suitcase full of stuff that we carry around. It's invisible. Nobody else can see it, but we know it's there and it's weighing us down. And what I'm suggesting is that for a moment, as an experiment, put the suitcase down, or at least put one of the bags down, and see what that's like. See how you like her, and if you like it, leave it down, and if you don't like it, well then just carry on carrying it.
I see it as a T-junction. This was explained to me before by a friend of mine, Austin. He says, for some reason, when we come to a T-junction, we look right, and we see our family, we see our friends, we see our job, we see, you know, all the positive stuff we have, you know, that gratitude thing. I have a roof over my head, all my body parts work, my family are around me, I have enough to drink, I have enough to eat, I have enough heat in the gaff, all that kind of stuff. So the gratitude stuff, right, where you look at that and you go, wow, I'm actually doing really, really well, right? And, you know, and I'm doing good. That's the okay thing. I'm doing okay and I'm fresh. But then we look left, right, and we see all that negative stuff you're talking about, the person that cut you off, the resentment that you've held on for 25 years, that fucker in work that, you know, that leaves the tea bag on the draining board every day and wrecks your head. Like, and we tend to go that way. We have a choice, and the choice is, and I see you making the choice all the time of that positive thing, you know what I mean? And people will look at you and they go, he's mad, he's a head case. But I actually look at you going, he's a bit free, you know, he's at the kind of breaking from the shackles of that going left, going down that.
Because I've tried the other one up to the point where I'm in a room on my own, suicidal. So I'm not saying don't try it. I'm saying try it. Try it to the point. And I would extend that out to everything. Try whatever it is, the thing that you're into, the thing that you're running towards. Try it right up until that point. Now, I'm not advocating suicide. What I'm saying is, who am I to tell you not to do the thing that you're leaning into? Whatever it is. Alcohol, cocaine addiction, sex addiction, shopping, hoarding. Fucking do it. The human experience is do it. I've learned, for me, if I do it, I end up in a certain place. So I'm going the other way now.
So you sent me this. No, my sister sent me this thing the other day, right? And I sent it to you, and it was an alcohol and drug-free festival in Cavan, right?
In Killashandra.
Killashandra, man. And
that's where I've done the Sweat Lodge. So some of the boys that I've done the Sweat Lodge with, they're running it. It's like a 3-day festival.
I'm going. I'm in.
I think there's Sweat Lodges at it as well. There's talks. There's like nature or there's foraging out in the field. Like, this place is stunning, and what they've cottoned on to is we run towards the alcohol to hide away from the spiritual experience that we're having, the human experience, the human spiritual experience that we're having. So let's try that. These guys are suggesting let's try that for 3 or 4 days with 400 or 500 other people and see what it's like, with no alcohol.
I'm looking forward to it, but I clicked on it, right? So my sister Jennifer sent it to me, and thanks, Jennifer, right? I clicked on it, right? And it was like, it was like, do you remember Des Bishop did the thing about that there was protesters outside AA meetings and stuff like that, because alcohol is such ingrained in the minds of people here. Like, so it was like the responses to the... So there's some people saying, yeah, that's deadly, and I'm definitely going to go to this. But the majority of the responses were, they're taking everything away from us. You know? It was like, here's people choosing to go on a festival without alcohol, but there was this thing, they're taking it all away from us.
And I think they're taking it all away from us. I'm saying to people, play that game right till the end. Yeah? All the way till the end point where it's just you in a room screaming that shit at yourself. The government, the bastards, the teachers, the fucking, the Garda, whoever it is. And we know loads of them. And through
I used to do it.
Through COVID, loads of it was revealed on social media. And I grew up with people who are right smack bang in the middle of it now as a kind of, as their response to COVID. They're trying to control us. What I'm saying is, I'm not telling you not to do that. I'm saying do it right until the point where you're the only one left in the room, and then realise where the fuck you are, and turn the finger of blame, or the pointing the finger, just back on yourself and see what that's like, and be honest with yourself.
So I went down the point that you're talking about, right? Which was in the room on my own at that point, right? At the turning point, right? And the one thing that I remember from it is that I said to myself, I'm going to die, right? I'm going to die whenever. Like, I don't know. I mean, I could walk out of here and get a smack for 13, right? But I am going to die. And the thing is that do I want to live this bit, right, in this moment, right, in a negative space, blaming the Garda, hating the whatever, like, you know what I mean? All that stuff, right? Like, I was talking about the pioneer movement last week on the podcast, and somebody said to me they'd never thought about it in that way, right? And I would have slagged the pioneer movement as a kid. Like, if you wore a pioneer badge, you were a dope, like, you know? So we evolve, you know what I mean? We change, we move. And I think for me, is to be positive about stuff, like, you know what I mean? It's rather than be, you know, going down that route of blame. And the blame of the government are wrong. Like, this is wrong.
Me ma's wrong. That fella, it's all the... For me, I look at it as in everybody outside of me, everybody external to me is wrong and I'm right. And you get a little bit of self-righteous thing there. And we've all done it. But then just try as an exercise, just like putting the suitcase of guilt down, just try turning the finger back on yourself. And without blaming yourself, just start to look at yourself. There's like it's an inside job. There's a little internal job. And that's a spiritual job. The one where it's everybody's outside is like the human thing, the victim, the poor me, the why isn't life a fantasy? Why do I have to die? You know what I mean? And then the job that you're doing is an inside job. Yes, you will die by the mere fact that you were born. Part of the rules of the game is if you're born, you die. And we're battling with that for most of our lives. I'm not battling with it anymore. What I've realised is I'm not attached to the outcome of my life. The outcome of my life isn't the thing that scares me or dominates every single thought now, where it used to for 20, 30, 40 years. And I'd be playing a game, putting a mask on, pretending, telling lies, getting high, all that type of stuff.
Like, I live in the day, like, I try to live in the day, one day at a time, and that works for me. You know, it keeps me, I put my recovery first, and then when I put that first, everything kind of, not everything, but most things slot into place well, you know. So people say to me, so what about if you're going to a wedding next week, or do you not plan holidays or that? And I says, yeah, I do plan ahead, but I don't plan the outcome. So the outcome will happen. And I'm actually, it's mad, like, you know, yesterday I was in work and the plan was to go swimming, but when we got to the beach, it was too dangerous. So we went for something to eat. And the outcome was amazing. Like, we were sitting, eating with people and having chats. That, I didn't plan I didn't go, we can't swim, it's the end of the day's round.
Yeah, you're not attached to the outcome. There is going to be a thing that happens, but you're not thinking in the future, I want this to happen, and if it doesn't happen, I'm going to think a certain way. I'm going to be happy, or I'm going to be sad.
Yeah. So I used to fantasize a lot, right? About things, right? So one of the things I used to fantasize about was winning the 15 million.
All right, I was thinking sexual ones, but it was okay. Go on.
No, that's dead now. dormant. I am dead from the. I'm
Is it?
dead.
You're
I'm
dead from the waist down?
So no, this is something, and this is again about letting go of the secrets. So I used to fantasize before about winning the 15 million, right? And there was a day I stuck at it one day, right? This is going back 10 years ago, but I stuck at it, right? I stuck with the fantasy, right? And I was like, how much will I give Dean Scurry, right? And then I was like, why would I give him money, like, And then I'd be going, how much will I give me dad? How much will I give so-and-so? And then I'd be like, why am I paying for their gaffs? And then I start getting into a big argument over, this big argument happened in the fantasy, right? So that's how deep a fantasy will go. Now, the thing is this, if I was creative in a sense about writing, okay, if I was to write that, well, then that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Like, I mean, if I'm fantasizing and then, or if I have a fantasy and then I create The Wizard of Oz or something, like The Wizard of Oz is amazing, but I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is that I'm fantasizing about something that's not happening, right? And it's like, I remember hearing this woman saying one time, right, that her and her family go to the same place every year on holidays, right? I'm thinking,
Santa Ponsa, that's where we're going.
we're going to Santa Ponsa, and we get the same house every year. And I'm thinking, are they looking for the same experience every year? Is it this? But what happens when you turn up and it's not sunny or something? Like, is the holiday ruined? Or what happens if you tried to book,
Wasn't the same as last year, it wasn't.
Maria, yeah. You're kind of. So I think, like, me and you have just putting pins into the map in the world and just went there. Like, remember we went to the south of France one time. We just booked into an Airbnb and it was just deadly. Like, and we didn't have any kind of mad expectations about. There was one day where we just jumped on a train. We didn't know where we were going. We just jumped on a train and went in one direction, and we ended up at this deadly beach. So that's the kind of stuff that I think I'm more interested in now, is trusting me, how to say, intuitiveness.
Yeah, so your intuition. So there's loads of stuff there. For me, the word in and tuition. So it's like you're being taught by your in, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
So your gut is teaching you. And for me, that I call that freedom or liberation. It's no coincidence that the psychedelic experience in Ireland is called the Liberty Cap, the mushroom, because it liberates you from a lot of shit a lot of games that you've been playing, a lot of patterns, a lot of masks, a lot of routines, a lot of places that you've gone to get your highs. It liberates you from a lot of that, or it shows you them. This is a very interesting point now. It shows you them and it gives you a choice. And you liberate yourself. It gives you that T-junction that you're explaining. Have a look at left. Right, that's all that stuff. Have a look right. Well, that's all that stuff. Which one do you want to play now? Try that one. Try the left and see where it leaves you. Try the right and see where it leaves you. And in the psychedelic experience, you can live all of those out within that 8-hour period because time and space kind of disappear. So you've got all the time in the world to explore all of those. And then when you come out of it, you go, okay, I have a choice now. How do I integrate this into my life? Alcohol doesn't give you that. The drug or the medicine of choice in this country for the last whatever. I don't know how long Guinness is set up, but I think it was set up by a Protestant company to suppress the native people in Ireland. So I'm just throwing that out there as a
conspiracy theory.
Yeah, but I think it's real. So I'm going to leave it in. So alcohol doesn't free you; it shackles you. It ties you down, and it doesn't really allow that place for self-exploration.
So let's go back to your conspiracy theory, right? I think people in Ireland were making their own moonshine up in the forest called Puchéan, right? Long before Guinness ever came about. The Guinnesses they created that brewery in town and all that kind of stuff, and it's still there. It's still on like prime land, like, and it's still there. But I don't think that there was somebody kind of wringing their fingers together going, let's suppress the Irish. The Irish were suppressed with alcohol anyhow, like, you know what I mean? And I would 100% agree that is a symptom of colonialism. And I think if you look at all the places where there was colonialism, alcohol addiction became huge, right? The likes of Australia with the natives, America, or Turtle Island as they call it, with the natives, in all the different places where there was colonization, there was addiction. There was some, because their people's native language was was taken away or decimated or whatever, and people yearned for their culture. So I think alcohol is a perfect drug to suppress the pain, right? But it stops working. That's the problem with it is, and people get addicted to it, and they drink to a point of blackouts and all that kind of stuff, right? The thing you're talking about, the mushrooms, and I've never taken mushrooms, I have no interest in them because I've no interest. I feel I can reach that point that you were talking about without a mushroom. Now, I'm not saying, I'm only speaking for me. I have no judgment on anybody else that takes mushrooms. If that's your thing, happy days. If LSD is a thing, happy days. I'm not into judging other people about drug use or alcohol use or any of that kind of stuff. I'm sure I do. I'm sure when I'm walking through Temple Bar and I'm going, this is the belly of the beast, I'm sure I'm judging, but I try not to. I try to just, get on with me and do what I'm doing and be happy about me and what I'm doing. I do think, there are therapies that people use that use a similar drug like LSD to get people to those places where they can open up those doors to trauma and past trauma and stuff like that. So I'm not against that. I'm totally not against that.
Yeah, and there's many ways to the top of the mountain. And in the 60s, they used MDMA in relationship therapy. And then in the 80s, we used it in raves. So sometimes certain substances get used in a different way and then get bad press. As does alcohol. I enjoy having a drink, but it's shit for some people. There are many methods. That's the way I would say it. There's many methods to that point that we're talking about, to the point where you can self-reflect or start the process.
What I've heard it said was, we all come on different buses, but we're going to the same place.
And if we start judging people who are on a different bus, one is we're missing the opportunity just to realise where the fuck we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If we spend our time externalising and pointing the finger at other fuckers on a bus.
That's what happens to us. I'll give you an example, right? I listened to a podcast, the Ballymun Recovery podcast, and please, people, have a listen to it. Jimmy Bell hosts it, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Go on, Jimmy Bell.
They were talking about, there was people on it who were in the Star Project, an absolutely brilliant place in Ballymun, and they were talking about the recovery method that they use, which I think is called the Brixton method or something like that, Brighton or Brixton method. But they don't say they have a disease, right? And they don't come from a disease mentality. They come to a choice mentality. Now, my thing is to knock that, because the thing that works for me is I surrender, right? I surrender to a higher power. I say I am powerless, right?
And there's people who knock your one all the fucking time.
All the time, right? So that's grand, and that's okay. I was listening to the thing, and I was like, that's deadly, that works for them, right? And they sounded really healthy, Now, I wasn't saying I need to jump on that or I need to do that. What I was saying was, what works for me, so I'm going to keep doing it. What works for them, they do, and they're going, and I hope they keep doing it. I really do. I'm not into the knocking thing. The knocking thing, it's like the pioneer movement. I could easily say that's a Catholic control, blah 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 blah, right? I don't think it really is. I think some people are into it and it works for them. So happy days, some people go into recovery centres, go in and do a 12-week recovery program or 20-week, or some people do 16 months. There are Christian recovery programs. Not for me, Dean.
Yeah, but I think there's a deeper point, and it's that when you knock stuff, it's a reflection of where you're at. So try not knock stuff and see what happens. And I think you've liberated yourself from knocking shit.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And if you can do that with one thing, try it with other things.
Yeah.
If you can have kind of an awareness of your decision making for one thing, like when I think about me relationship with me mother, oh my God, fuck this, she's a fucking bastard. But we can change that. We all get to the point, my ma and dad actually weren't that bad. So if you can do it with that one thing, try it with other things. And I think that's where you start to really get liberated, when you change your thinking on one thing and then it has a ripple effect across 20 things in your life.
Do you know what? You're 100%, because I would have seen people, behaving in a different way to me, and I would have just kept knocking them and they're this and they're that and that kind of stuff. Now I don't. And even the Ballymun for all or the Dublin for all or Ireland for all, like, you know, that whole thing, that anti-racism thing that we were involved in. I meet people all the time who were on those marches going, out, out, out. I don't hold the resentment to them. Because
neither do I. Yeah, that's great. Go on.
If I'm looking at them with hate or with anger or with disdain, I'm feeling it, like, you know what I mean? So whereas I don't, and I'm not saying I know better than them and they're wrong. I'm just thinking the bus that they're on is a different bus to mine.
The way you explained it to me was they listen to 98 FM and you're tuned into FM 104.
Freedom FM.
Freedom FM. They're just on a different frequency at the moment and they're where they're at. And who are we to say that where somebody else is at in their life is the
right
wrong place?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another judgment. It's another thing. And what we're suggesting is just try not do it and see how you feel. If you feel better, well, continue down that path. If you feel worse, well, then by all means, continue to judge and point fingers.
Yeah, and I hope people do, you know, get on some kind of journey for themselves, like, you know what I mean? Because it's so much better, you know, to be free of secrets, free of damnation, free of all that kind of stuff, you know. I remember one time being part of the Ballymun recovery thing, you know, and we were on Zoom, you know, and there was people asking me about the 12 steps, you know, and they were really kind of grilling me on it. And I listened, and they were really grilling me, and I just said, I don't really know, but I know it works. And that's enough for me. I don't need to know how it works in a real deep sense of...
It doesn't have to be overanalyzed either, you know, scientifically or spiritually.
Yeah.
It is what it is. It does the thing. It feels better for you intuitively than the other thing.
The other thing was drinking my head off.
Yeah, and externalising and pointing the finger at other people and blaming. If only I had hair. If only I was 3 stone lighter. If only me Mickey was 6 inches longer. If only the government gave us all free houses. If only the IRA didn't exist. You know what I mean? There's all that type of stuff. We externalise it, but there's an inside job. There's an intuition journey to happen.
And once I get out of my own way, once I get that thing that you're talking about, once I get me out of the equation, me with that negative, you know, that horrible blame and all that kind of, once I step out of my own way, I shine.
So the way I see the me thing is, for all of us, we're on a me journey up until a point where we start to realise there's a we journey. So it's like the Rastafari, I and I. We're all the same. That's where that statement for me comes from. If I feel it, you're guaranteed that other people are having the same experience. So if it's true for me, what's the solution for me? And then that's the solution for other people. And that's what I do in the world. I just do the thing that works for me out into the world.
My hairdryer's on a wee journey today. It's gone up to the wee done.
We went and done Mount Errigal a few weeks ago. And I really enjoyed it. I was quite depressed at the time, and climbing to the top of Mount Errigal just gave me a shift in perspective.
Lovely.
So when I came back down, a lot of the heaviness of the depression had shifted, and I wasn't holding on to it. I wasn't attached to it. I wasn't judging it. I wasn't afraid of it. I just let it come in like a cloud and leave. And climbing to the top of the mountain gave me that space to do that. Yeah. But there was a young fella staying with us, and there was a hairdryer in the B&B we were staying with. It was like the B&B's hairdryer. So he kind of shouted out, anyone have a hairdryer? And these people who were leaving handed him the hairdryer, and he thought it was a gift, like a parting gift. And he was like, they're not to give me a hairdryer. He was putting it in his bag and all that. And we were like, no, that belongs to the B&B. I just want to, because at the start of this, before we turned on the mics, you said, Dane, I spoke last week and I just want to say some stuff or ask you some things. So why do you want to do that? What is it about that you seen?
I was interested in you talking about the darkness, you know, at the time, right? I was interested in that because it terrified the shite out of me when you were in it, like, you know. And I know that darkness. I've been in that darkness, and it was interesting for me that you went to the doctor and took, you know, the medication, you climb Mount Errigal, you've done all the positive, all the next right things, and there is a path out of it, right? Out of the darkness, right? That's interesting. That's interesting for me. It's also interesting for me about the high part of you, like that, the dance the person who's dancing down at the High Rock and swimming and doing dives and all that kind of stuff, right? There's an interest in that, like, you know what I mean? And I see you as a very, very positive force. I think there's an honesty in, I think what happens to some people, you know, who slip into the darkness is they don't talk about it and they don't want to talk about it and they see it as a real negative and shameful part of their psyche. Whereas I think if we can talk about it and release the secret, it's not so shameful.
In the shadow.
Colin Querney has a song, you know, about in that shadow, like, you know. I wanted to talk to you about it because I'm interested in the journey. And I'm interested because the joy is in the journey, you know what I mean?
Yeah, one thing I sussed out in Apollo House was laughing and crying is the same thing. It looks very similar, actually, when you're fully laughing and you're fully crying. It looks similar. So for me, fame and shame, good and bad, it's all perfectly balanced. But you have to push up against one for a while and then be thrown into the other one to find that realisation.
Yeah. Like I was laughing about, so this week we have the whole news on RTE, you know, of, you know, the payments and the scandal and all that kind of stuff, right? And people are going into public accounts this week and yada, yada, yada. I listened to the new MD that's coming in, like, you know. I was thinking 2 weeks ago when that guy was telling his family, I'm at to get the job on RTE, you know, and the elation and the celebration, right, of that, right? But the reality then is that the week that he started, he's driving into...
Yeah, but what a fucking opportunity. I love that point there as opportunity because I'm not attached. I wouldn't be attached to the outcome. I just get in and do the journey and be me, honest me. And that's the opportunity that person has to be,
absolutely,
get in there and just be
brilliant.
Themselves and don't be...
If they're strong enough.
Yeah, don't be weighed down by all the suitcases from the previous stuff. You know what I mean? Look at it and go, yeah, that's what it is, and name it and talk about it and be honest about it, but don't be carrying that shit.
And that's what he said. He said, look, you know, it's going to be open and honest from here on in, you know, and I hope it is. You know,
because, you know, in recovery, it's not always, because people go back and they do it again and they do it again and they go back on the roller coaster and they look for the high and they look for the greed and they look for the Reynolds and they look for the money and they look for the wank and you know what I mean? They look for everything.
Didn't hear that story.
No, but this is what I'm saying is that's not an RTE story. That's what we all do. That's a pattern that we all do. In recovery, it's falling off the wagon. RTE can fall off the wagon again because they're only fucking human. But this dude has an opportunity. What a fucking amazing point for him.
And I think that's brilliant. Like, so, like, if you look at RTE in its heyday, like, you know, it probably shone like a lighthouse, right? It shone, it was good, you know, there was a heyday. There definitely was a heyday.
For me, the heyday is romantic past.
Past, of course.
There's a right fucking now. RTE
has an opportunity.
There's a right now. Ireland does a right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we can look back. We can look back on romantic Ireland's dead and gone. We can look back on the past, or we can get, you know, over focused on the future. But there's right fucking now. We have the best right now opportunity for RTE.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's my hope. It will be entrusted to the right people rather than that whole nepotist, this elitist kind of cliquey.
And we can
bullshit.
do the same pattern. Like, let's take last 100 years. And by the way, that's why I done Apollo House, Home Sweet Home in 2016, because it was 100 years after 1916. So it was a little kind of experiment or a little test for ourselves. You know what I mean? Do we want to continue on the same patterns of heaviness and blame, or do we want to be honest? We've only known insecurity and greed and nepotism in this country. Let's try, instead of going left, let's try go right. See what that happens.
But there's loads of different communities that are not, you know, that there's not that. You know what I mean? There's loads of communities and there's loads of different things going on that's not that. That's not negative and nepotism, and there's loads of stuff happening that's really, really positive. The problem is that they're not in the mainstream. RTE has been in the mainstream. You know, I think what happens with a lot of these institutions is the go-to place is try and save the institution, mind the institution, you know. So I think
that's a good one, yeah. The institution has to die. Just like you, Ray. The old Ray is dead and gone. It's in O'Leary in the grave.
Yeah.
The old Ray is gone. You're not going back to it. And you're not. So the way that you were has died in a kind of existential way.
The person who was is gone. It's
An RTE can die, but it can be reborn.
Absolutely.
And it can be something new and fresh and light and liberated without doing, doing psychedelics.
Just to say to the new MD in RTE, me and Dean are available.
I think if the new MD in RTE doesn't realise that there's a resource here with me and Sparky, and there's many of us around the country, there's a fucking phenomenal opportunity. Open your eyes, open your heart, realise where we're at. We're at a fucking beautiful moment where we can have alchemy, where we can start mixing bits together in this country that we didn't have the balls or the heart or the wisdom to mix before. That's where we're at. That's the opportunity. Or just go back and do the same old stale, selfish, insecure, greedy soup.
I hope that this scandal, or whatever you want to call it, right? It doesn't matter what it's called, but whatever this is, that it shakes RTE from the foundations and changes it and gets rid of that wanky nepotist, fame crap. It's like, there's people in RTE who have been there for years and years and years and years, and there's nobody fresh coming in. There's nobody young, old, working class, black, LGBT. There's nothing. It's just the same old.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a generalisation, but I understand that there is some tokenistic blacks, or tokenistic young people, or tokenistic gays, or whatever the fuck it is. Token Ballymunners. I always thought that Fair City was like, here's token Ballymun. Let's change it from the token to the driving seat. Let's put a couple of fucking real heads who aren't the old stock, aren't the old school, in the driving seat and see where we go. Have the confidence of your conviction.
Maybe we should write to the MD and say...
No, maybe the MD should fucking write to us.
We've no control over that. Let's
very good, yes. Let's be active rather than passive.
That's that blame thing you're talking about. Damn, they should write to us.
Let's create or die. No, it's not. That was a little bit of my ego kicking in, going, who the fuck are they? They should be ringing me up.
That's the docker. That's the docker, the inner docker in you.
I'm a union man. Hold on a minute here. Daddy. So, right, let's wrap it up. That was Daddy.
It was Daddy, and it was interesting. These are very, very interesting, and I never have a plan coming down here, you know what I mean? I never have. The only thing that was on my mind is what I did want to talk to you about Apollo House and the ups and downs of that, because I think it's a very interesting space, So
there's a few things that we're doing that are like...
we have news.
We have news.
So...
Sparky's going to give the news. Fucking excited shite over there is going to give the news.
So, we're going to do a live show. We're only have to do 3 podcasts.
He's so excited.
I can't wait.
I don't think you can believe that we're going to do a live show.
We're going to do a live show. We're going to sell it out. We are meeting with the manager of a venue this weekend to book a live show.
So a mate of ours runs a small venue, ad hoc venue, and we're going to put a show on there. And there's probably at the most, how many seats?
It's going to be a small audience, but let's not knock that.
No, I'm not knocking it, but you make it sound like Vicar Street. We're meeting with the manager of a venue. 3 shows here. We're taking over.
We're doing 3 nights in a post office in Dundrum.
We're doing a jump over in a chipper in Coolock.
I tried to do a jump over in Access earlier.
It took you about 3 hours to get over the counter.
So come here. So we're going to do a live show in August. We're thinking of the bank holiday weekend if we're available and if the venue is available. And we're thinking of streaming on Facebook.
You never mentioned any of the streaming shit to me.
We're going to do a live podcast. So we're going to maybe stream on Facebook. Well, I'm not the technical person. You're the technical person. What about your algorithms?
The algorithms are gonna get you. The algorithms are gonna get you.
So look, we're going to definitely do a live podcast in a venue in Dublin. This is a deadly venue, and yeah, if people are interested in tickets, give us a shout.
He's still excited. He's rambled on there for about a minute. He's that excited. Look at him. You're starting to believe in yourself. That's what I like about this. You're starting to go, Sparky, actually, you're fucking shit, huh?
No, it's going to be deadly. It's going to be deadly. I'm so looking forward to it. And I'm not predicting the outcome of it. If it falls flat on its arse, grand, I'll deal with it. You know what I mean? But Oh yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's a great bit of crack.
I'm gonna help you rephrase that. You're not attached to the outcome of it. Like when I done my comedy show up in the Spirit Store, there was 10 people there. Half of them were my family, and I was getting a little bit nervous. Then I realised, just do the gig like you're already dead, like the gig is already over, and don't be attached to whatever the outcome is. So we're gonna do a show. It's gonna be great, and some people will be there, and loads of people won't be. Most people won't be. Some people will be. And also, we have invited a guest on, a really interesting guest, for a couple of weeks' time. We might have another guest between now and then, but this is the first person to kind of like that I've explicitly invited on, and it's good to just, I think it's just good to do that, invite people on. And it's nice when people say yes, but it's even better when they turn up. So here's your opportunity to wind the show.
Thanks for listening, guys. I've really enjoyed this week's podcast. It was a roller coaster of emotions for me.
Was it?
No, it was brilliant. I thought it was great. It's a great conversation, and we're
starting to loosen up and be a bit more open and honest with each other, a bit more adventurous, a bit more creative. What you have to do is listen to the podcast, follow the podcast on Spotify, share the podcast in WhatsApp groups, like it, do all that stuff, subscribe, all that type of stuff, which drives the algorithm, which gets more people. As much as you like it, share it with other people and they'll like it, and then we'll grow our audience, and then we'll all have a bit of crack, and then eventually we'll be in a room with 2,000 of you having as much fucking fun as we can.
But there's two other things you have to do. One is contact the CEO of Brennan's and ask them to sponsor it.
And contact the new manager of RTE and tell them that she's going to onboard. She's going to onboard me and Sparky.
And then the other thing is, when we do have the live show, we really want you there. 15 quid a ticket.
Is that how much we're charging?
I don't know what you think.
We'll see.
What do you think? You're Blatant Concrete Pockets. You'll be charging 45.
No, I'm actually all right. I used to be Concrete Pockets, but I'm all right now. I changed. Right, let's wrap it up. See you later. The fresh batch. Yup.
Holy hand of sweet Jesus. Will you stop talking about batch fucking loaf, will you? Sparky, for fuck's sake. You're doing me crust in.
He's had given me a big inspiration to do my own one, so nice one for that. And yeah, man, it's steady, the conversation. I just really enjoyed the conversation today. Fair play.
I'm a fan of fresh batch. I love it with butter, red sauce and chips. You can't beat it. But I'm also a fan of the podcast as well, and a fan of Sparky's and a fan of Dino's. Mick O'Brien from the Druids. Yous are absolutely brilliant lads. Well done. Keep her rocking.
Sparky, mate, I've just listened to both podcasts. Absolutely love them. Love the flow of them. I love the vibe between the two of you. I love the subjects that you're covering and the way that you're covering them. You need a glossary, though, for us non-North Dublin people, because you're using terms and words I haven't got a fucking clue. What's a yoke? I've been playing gigs now in fucking Dublin for 10 years, and I still don't know what a yoke is. On the surface of it, it's ecstasy tablet. Fucking tell me what a yoke is, will you? Put me out of my fucking misery.
Here, fuck off, will you? Fresh, yeah?